Rambo First Blood Part 2 takes place 4 years after the events of the original First Blood and was released in 1985, directed by George P. Cosmatos, and interestingly enough, James Cameron of Aliens and Terminator and Avatar fame was one of the writers, along with Kevin Jarre and Sylvester Stallone, with music by Jerry Goldsmith. Now, this is another excellent entry into the action series of Rambo. Sylvester Stallone once again does an incredible job, and not to mention the fact that this one is just bigger than First Blood. First Blood is still a damn good action movie, and considering there's only one death in the entire movie, which is not technically John Rambo's fault, it's pretty savage, and he causes a lot of chaos. Here in Rambo First Blood Part 2, of course, they had a much bigger budget and of 25 million, and they went to town with it, with a lot more vehicles, helicopters, explosions, weapons, and so Rambo gets the choice to get released from prison after 4 years, so he gets to get out early, and he has to go to Vietnam to take photographs of prisoners of war. Of course, he doesn't do that. He wants to free them. Of course he does, because he was one, and he is helped along the way by Kobau, I think I've pronounced her name correctly, played by Julia Nixon. Richard Crenna is back as Colonel Traitman, and we have Charles Napier as Marshal Murdoch, who is an absolute douche nozzle, and Steven Burkoff as Podofsky, a Russian that's just thrown in there for some reason. Doesn't really have a big role, does do a bit of torturing and a bit of evil Russian stuff, but apart from that, just comes into it much later on in the film. And there is a romantic entanglement between Rambo and Kobau, which kind of just pops up out of nowhere, but I mean, it's fine, it's serviceable, it does what it needs to do. But once John Rambo is betrayed by his government once again and left there and escapes the Russians, there's some awesomeness that follows. He takes people out. He is a one-man army. Not to mention the fact that this film has some of the great quotes that he says, you want to survive war, you got to become war. There's just some really good stuff done here with First Blood Part 2. And one thing I kind of picked up on a lot whilst watching it and whilst watching these older films is that there's a lot of in-camera acting and longer takes, so it's not so choppy. Like there's that the actors are using the space, which is you don't really see much these days, A lot of filmmakers just use a lot of close-ups and a lot of cuts. But here, like, Stallone is getting dirty, he's getting in the grime, he's getting into it, and there's just these really long takes with Stallone all in camera, and it's just all really well done. My only negative is a couple of times there is some very shaky ADR, but I think that just comes with the older films, because the first film had some terrible ADR. But if that's my only negative for the movie, then obviously they must be doing something right. It's a fantastic watch, and I highly recommend Rambo First Blood Part 2. Of course, you kind of probably want to watch Rambo First Blood. Well, it's not called Rambo, it's just called First Blood. But you may want to watch that one first. But yeah, once again, a fantastic job by Stallone, and I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the Rambo movies. But please let me know in the comments down below what you think, and as always, thank you very much for watching.
No war can stop him. Sylvester Stallone is back as Rambo, First Blood Part 2.